Matt stood at the edge of a scorched battlefield, his sword dripping with blood, his body weighed down by exhaustion. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the land in shadows. He looked around at the fallen, both friend and foe, scattered across the ground like broken dolls. The silence that followed a battle was always the worst part, the stillness filled with the echoes of dying cries and shattered lives. Matt sheathed his sword, feeling an emptiness gnawed at his soul. He couldn't remember the last time he felt peace. The faces of the men he had slain haunted him, appearing in his dreams and turning his sleep into a battlefield of its own. He knew he couldn't go on like this. The elders of the land spoke of a river deep within the ancient forest, a river that held the power to erase memories. It was said that those who drank from its waters would forget their pain, their past, and find a chance to begin anew. Desperation tugged at Matt's heart, and he made a decision. He would find the sacred river, drink from its waters, and finally escape the ghosts that haunted him. He set off at dawn, leaving behind the remnants of the battlefield and heading towards the dense forest. The path was treacherous, winding through ancient trees that seemed to whisper secrets from ages long past. He knew that the journey would not be easy, but he welcomed the challenge. It was a small price to pay for the chance to forget. As he ventured deeper into the forest, Matt's mind drifted to the memories he longed to erase, the laughter of his comrades before they fell in battle, the pleading eyes of a young enemy soldier he had been forced to kill. He clenched his fists, trying to shake the images from his mind. By midday, he reached the bank of a wide river. The water was dark and still, reflecting the sky like a polished mirror. This had to be it, the river of forgotten names. He knelt by the water's edge, his heart pounding. He could almost feel the relief of letting go of his past, of finally finding peace. But before he could drink, he heard a voice behind him. "You seek to forget." Matt turned to see a woman standing there, her face shadowed by the hood of a cloak. She looked at him with eyes filled with sadness. "I do," Matt said, his voice rough. "I want to erase it all." The woman nodded slowly. "You are not the first to come here, warrior. Many have sought this river's waters, hoping to drown their sorrows. But be warned, it may not give you the peace you seek." Matt frowned, impatient. "I don't care about warnings. I just want to forget." The woman's gaze softened with pity. "Very well," she said, stepping aside. "But remember, once you drink, there is no turning back." Matt hesitated for a moment, then bent down and scooped up a handful of the dark water, lifting it to his lips. The water was cold as it slid down Matt's throat, its chill spreading through his body. He waited, expecting the memories to dissolve like mist, but instead, the world around him began to blur and shift. He staggered back from the riverbank, feeling the strange heaviness settle into his bones. "You drunk from the river of forgotten names," the woman said softly, stepping closer. "But do you feel any different?" Matt blinked, the memories still sharp in his mind. He could still see the faces of the fallen, hear their dying breaths. "Nothing has changed," he whispered, his voice tinged with confusion and fear. The woman sighed. "The river does not erase memories, it traps them here. In its waters, those who drink become bound to this place, their names forgotten, but their souls never truly are at peace." Matt's heart raced as he realized the gravity of his mistake. He looked down at the river, and for the first time he noticed faint whispers rising from the surface, like voices carried on the wind. The water rippled, and faces began to appear, ghostly, transparent, eyes filled with a hollow sorrow. "Who are they?" Matt asked, his voice shaking. "They are the lost," the woman said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Those who sought to forget their past, just like you. Their memories are bound to the river, their souls trapped in a state of amnesia. They do not remember who they are, and so they cannot move on." Matt stared at the faces in the water, horrified. He watched as they flickered and faded, only to reappear moments later. "Is there no way to free them?" "There is one way," the woman said, "but it is a path few have the courage to take." Matt turned to her, desperation in his eyes. "Tell me." "You must remember," she said. "You must face the memories you wish to forget, and speak them aloud. Only by embracing your pain and sharing your story can you break the cycle of your forgetfulness. Your voice will act as a bridge, allowing the trapped souls to remember their own names and find peace." Matt's hands clenched into fists. The very thing he had sought to escape was now his only chance to make things right. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his past pressing down on him like a physical force. "I'll do it," he said, his voice filled with resolve. "I'll remember." The woman nodded, her expression solemn. "Then prepare yourself, warrior. You will face the darkness within your own heart, but if you are strong enough, You will bring light to those who have been lost for centuries. Matt looked out over the river, the whispers growing louder. He knew what he had to do. Matt knelt by the riverbank, his reflection rippling on the surface as the sun dipped lower into the sky. The whispers grew louder, a dissonant chorus of voices tangled together like vines. He could feel their presence more clearly now, a cold, ethereal chill in the air. The woman stood beside him, her eyes locked on the dark waters. "They're waiting for you," she said. "They've been waiting for someone strong enough to face the truth." Matt took a deep breath and nodded. "I'll remember," he said, "but I don't even know where to start." The woman reached out, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder. "You are not alone. The river holds many stories, each bound here by the weight of forgotten pain. Listen, and they'll guide you." Matt closed his eyes, letting the sounds of the river wash over him. Slowly, the chaotic whispers began to separate, each voice distant, each story desperate to be heard. The first was a young man's voice, soft and hesitant. "I was a poet," he said. "I came here to forget the love I lost. I thought if I erase her memory, the pain will fade. But now I can't remember her face, her laugh. I traded one pain for another." Matt's heart ached as he listened, the poet's sorrow resonating with his own. He opened his eyes, and the ghostly figure of the poet appeared before him, translucent and shimmering. The man looked at Matt, his eyes filled with a hollow sadness. "What was her name?" Matt asked gently. The poet's form flickered, his face twisting with the effort to remember. "Lila," he whispered. "Her name was Lila." As he spoke her name, a small ripple spread across the water, and the poet's figure began to fade, a soft smile on his lips. "Thank you," he said, his voice a mere breath of wind. "I can remember now." Matt watched as the poet's soul dissolved into the air, the ripples in the water fading to stillness. A sense of calm settled over him, a strange mix of relief and sadness. He had freed one soul, but the river still teemed with many more. The woman's voice cut through his thoughts. "You've begun the process, but the hardest part is yet to come. Your own memories are the key to freeing the rest." Matt's jaw clenched. He had spent so long trying to bury his past, to escape the faces of those he had killed. He didn't know if he could summon the strength to relive those moments. He looked into the water and saw a reflection that wasn't his own, a young boy no older than 10, staring up at him with the wide, fearful eyes. Matt's breath caught in his throat. "You," he whispered. "I remember you." The boy's reflection nodded, his voice small, carrying a tremor. "You were there when I died. You tried to save me, but it was too late." Matt's chest tightened as the memory surged back with vivid clarity. It had been a chaotic battle, smoke and screams filling the air. He had found the boy, a civilian caught in the crossfire. Matt had carried him, blood soaking through his tunic, but the boy's life had slipped away before he could reach safety. Tears streamed down Matt's face. "I'm so sorry," he choked out. "I couldn't save you." The boy's reflection softened, a sad smile gracing his lips. "You did everything you could. I've been trapped here, waiting for you to remember me. Now I can finally go." The boy's image dissolved, and a warmth spread through Matt's chest, like a weight lifting. He realized now that the souls weren't angry, they were just lost, needing someone to acknowledge their pain. Matt wiped his tears, turning to the woman. "I'll continue," he said, his voice steady with newfound resolve. "I'll remember them all." The sun sank lower, casting a golden light across the river. Matt remained at the water's edge, his body tense, bracing himself for the flood of memories he had locked away. The voices of the lost souls swirled around him, soft but insistent. He could feel their stories pressing against his mind, fragments of forgotten lives begging to be freed. He took a deep breath and reached into the river again, letting the cold water flow through his fingers. Images flashed before his eyes, a woman with tear-streaked cheeks, an old man clutching a locket, a soldier staring blankly at the sky as the light left his eyes. Each story was a weight on Matt's soul, but he forced himself to face them all. He spoke their names aloud, one by one, his voice hoarse but unwavering. With every name, a new ripple spread across the water, and a ghostly figure appeared, flickering like a flame in the wind. The woman with the locket stepped forward, her translucent hand clutching the tiny silver heart. "I lost my family," she whispered. "I thought forgetting would ease the pain, but now I can't even remember their faces." Matt's voice softened. "What were their names?" Her face crumpled as she struggled to recall. "Anna, my daughter, and Peter, my husband." The locket glowed as she spoke, and her form shimmered, turning into a soft mist that drifted upwards, fading into the sky. Matt felt the heaviness in his chest tighten once more. He had freed another soul. The river was calmer now, the whispers quieter. Matt could feel the shift, as if the weight of the trapped memories was slowly lifting. But there was one last story he had to confront. His own. He closed his eyes and the memories surged forward like a tidal wave. The faces of his comrades flashed before him, their laughter echoing in his ears. He saw them falling, one by one, their bodies crumbling in the mud. He had been the last one standing, surrounded by the silence of the dead. I couldn't save them, he whispered, his voice breaking. I failed them. The river's surface rippled violently, as if it were reaching to his pain. The woman knelt beside him, her face filled with compassion. You carry a burden too heavy for one soul, she said. Sharing it lightens the load. Speak their names, Matt. He nodded, tears streaming down his cheeks. Jared, my brother in arms. Lydia, who always made us laugh. Elias, who never got to see his son. The water shimmered, glowing with a soft light. He felt the presence of his fallen comrades, a warm breeze brushing his face like a gentle caress. The ripples in the river stilled, and for the first time, Matt felt a deep, abiding peace. The river was silent now, its once dark waters clear and serene. Matt looked down and saw his own reflection, but this time, it wasn't twisted by pain or guilt. It was his true face, worn and scarred, but whole. The woman stood beside him. Her eyes were kind, filled with a timeless understanding. You've done it, she said. You freed them all. Matt turned to her, a question forming on his lips. Who are you? I am the keeper of the river, she said softly. I guide the lost souls, but I cannot free them. Only someone who chooses to remember can do that. Matt nodded slowly. The river didn't erase their memories. It held them, waiting for someone to face the truth. She smiled. Yes, forgetting is a temporary escape. But true peace comes from remembering, accepting the pain, and letting it go. He looked back at the river, the faces of the lost souls no longer visible. The water sparkled in the sunlight, the gentle current flowing away into the distance. It was beautiful now, a symbol not of sorrow, but of release. What happens now? Matt asked. You can leave, she said. You face your past and freed the souls trapped here. The river's power is broken. Matt felt a wave of relief, but also a twinge of sadness. He had come here seeking oblivion, but he was leaving with something far greater. Understanding, a sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. He turned to leave, but then paused, looking back at the woman. Will you be alright? What will you do now? She smiled, a serene expression on her face. I was bound here by the memories I couldn't let go of, but you freed me too, Matt. I can move on, just like the others. Matt nodded, feeling a swell of gratitude. He bowed his head slightly. Thank you. She nodded back, a single tear slipping down her cheek. No, warrior. Thank you. With that, she dissolved into a shimmering mist, merging with the light of the sun. Matt watched as the last traces of her form faded away, leaving only the sound of the river's gentle flow. He turned and walked away from the riverbank, the forest parting before him. The path was clear now, and for the first time in years, he truly felt free. He knew that the memories would remain, but they no longer held power over him. He had faced them, spoken them aloud, and in doing so, found his own peace. And as he stepped back into the sunlight, he felt the warmth of the world embrace him, a promise of new beginnings.